So, just as a precursor, this is going to be entirely unhinged. I have no idea, I have no coherent string of thoughts for what is currently going through my head other than pure rage, so just a heads up. So, the Senate has finally agreed on a resolution to reopen the government, and I just have one message for the establishment Democrats that helped vote in this new resolution. Thanks for nothing. The entire time, you all have been promising that you are going to hold the line on this issue and you're going to make sure that millions of Americans aren't going to be losing their access to health care and making sure that insurance premiums aren't going to freaking skyrocket because of this new piece of legislation that the GOP has been trying to push through. And now you just cave. And it's the usual suspects all over again. It's the same ones who are continually doing this, including both of the senators from Nevada, Senators Rosen and Cortez Masto. Time and time again, they break across the lines and try to work with the GOP. And while I get that on paper this is how the government is supposed to work, in practice for the last almost 20 years this has not been a feasible option. The GOP is not and has not been in the last 20 years interested in negotiation. Supposedly there was a guarantee that there would be a vote in December on the healthcare portion of this bill to make sure that insurance premiums weren't going to go up and that ACA subsidies, that's the word I'm looking for. Supposedly there is going to be a vote in December on the ACA subsidies and their extension and everything related to the healthcare portions of this bill that the Democrats have been trying to fight for the entirety of this shutdown. Here's the rub, though. It's the Republican Party under the Trump administration. The MAGA-led Republican Party has not been able to be trusted since President Trump's first term in 2016. They have lied and cheated the entire time to make sure that they get their way. Establishment Democrats in the Senate are banking on the Republican Party sticking to their word and allowing this vote to happen next month. That vote is never going to come. From what I have been seeing, and I will have to do some more digging into this, from what I have been seeing, there is no actual language written down anywhere that guarantees that this vote is going to happen. Which means, if there is no such agreement in writing, and even if there is such an agreement in writing, the GOP gets a free pass to say, no, we never agreed to that, this isn't going to happen. It wouldn't even be the most egregious thing that they've done in this term. Establishment Democrats sold out this country for brownie points. They have been so obsessed with this idea of taking the high road when the enemy goes low that they've just decided to stick with that. Taking the high road doesn't work anymore. We've seen what the GOP does when it gets down in the trenches and actually tries to establish legislation. And especially now that they have majorities in the judicial branch and the legislative branch, and they own the White House, they're going to ram through as much stuff as they possibly can in any way possible, whether it's legal or not. The rules don't apply anymore. The inmates are running the asylum. You sold us out because you trusted in the integrity of the system. And again, while on paper that isn't necessarily a bad thing, in practice you should see the walls crumbling around you. Integrity in Congress left in 2008 when Obama was elected, especially from the GOP. Conservatives were so annoyed that the United States elected an African American president that they then sought to completely destroy the Democratic establishment from the ground up. Once that happened, the GOP realized that they had been backed into a corner. They realized their time in the sun was ending. And when they regained the White House in 2016, they sought to do everything in their power to solidify their power. Because they knew if the people were actually given full control of the government like it's supposed to be, they would never win an election again. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party hasn't been doing us any favors in that category either. For the past 3 elections, the main candidates in the Democratic Party have just been, I'm not Trump. I mean, good. I should certainly hope you're not Trump. Thank the nine that there is only one Donald J. Trump on the face of the planet. But your platform has to be stronger than that. That's the reason Trump was able to win 2 full elections. He was able to galvanize an entire voter base because he promised them something. Whether or not he was going to follow through on those promises is an entirely different matter, and as we've seen from both of his terms so far, he hasn't. Donald Trump cannot be trusted as far as you can throw him, and I can't throw anything to save my life. I am weak as hell. Again, establishment Democrats have been running on integrity, and while that's great, integrity doesn't work anymore. The party that controls the government right now isn't playing by the rules. And you have to do everything in your power to make sure that you can stop them in any way, shape, or form. And I know that's difficult when they're not playing by the rules, but it's literally your job. It is becoming increasingly clear that neither side cares about the American people in this race anymore. And I know people are going to go to that last point and you're like, you just now figuring this out? I mean, no, I've had an inkling for a long time. But this just kind of sealed the deal. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being sold up the river by our politicians so they can sleep better at night. This needs to stop. And I don't know where it's going to stop, but it needs to stop. Serious changes need to be made in the congressional structure. And if they don't, we're in for a rough time. Even rougher than we already have been.